I'm sharing my screen now. So I've given this button a ID submit button. Okay, and if on the click of this submit button I want to do some task, so one of the ways is over here we write the on click event. Okay, and we can write the CSS over here, the JavaScript over here also, inline JavaScript. Okay, so if I say over here on the click of it I want an alert saying form submitted. Okay, now this will these two double quotes will conflict with each other. So here you can use single quotes. Okay, so if I do a control S, and if I come over here and if I click on it, it says form submitted. So there is some behavior being added to the form. Okay, so one of the ways of doing event handling is this, directly on the as an inline JavaScript you can write the code, but we don't do that much. So what we do is on the click of a button we call a function. Okay, let's say we call a register function. So what will happen over here now, when the user will click on this button, a function will be called by the name register. This function should be there in a JavaScript. Day 15 JavaScript should have this function. And here then you can do the task what you want, alert. Your form has been submitted. Control S. Let's come on the console and now let's try to click. Now it says, okay, I didn't do a save all. Okay, now if I come here and says your form has been submitted. Okay, so either we can write that inline CSS or we can write it and call a function over here. Okay, these are all called as event handling. Then we don't write this code normally. We don't call the function from the HTML. What we do basically is we take the access of this button in JavaScript. So how do I take the access? I showed you all yesterday. We take a variable submit button element equals to document dot get element by ID which ID, what ID have we given it? Submit button. And now once I have this button over here, I can do whatever with it. Okay, I can add the CSS also to it as we did yesterday. Submit button element dot. How did we add? So if I want to change the color of this button, okay, so style dot background color, style dot bgc, okay, let's say red. So if I do a control S, okay, we have to pass it equal to. Okay, so background color we do not have to pass the function, we have to give it as a value. This red will not come over here, red will come over here. Okay, so like this we can do anything with it. Similarly what we can do is we can add some functionality to this button over here. Okay, that we call as add event listener. So here we have to pass two things, which event we want to add. Okay. So when I wrote the event over here, what did you all write? What did you all observe? What did I write over here? Okay. So on is a prefix, click is the event. Okay. On is just a prefix, and on click what you want to do. So here we are adding which event to it? We are adding the click event to it. And to the click event, second thing you have to pass a callback function. Which function do you want to call? So as a callback function, we just pass the function name, right? We just pass the function name. So I say I want to call this function, and I can add some more thing to it so that you know that it is targeting this function, the latest one. Okay, so now see my button is here. It is just a plain button, nothing is there in it. I've added the style also using JavaScript and the behavior also using JavaScript. So on to this function I added an event listener. Which event listener? Click, and which function to call, just the, and you have to pass the callback function. And when I click on the submit, it says your form has been submitted, thank you, this has been called. Okay, so let me just push this code to you. Just play around with this code. This is very crucial topic. Okay. I'll be back in around 5 minutes. Yes, guys. So okay, so like this you can add multiple events. One of the most widely used event would be the click event. Okay, so if I would want to pass a parameter to this function while calling, okay, let's say this takes a name as a parameter. Now this would be interesting. So I would call it like this from here. Okay, so this would cause a problem because whenever we call a function like this, it directly invokes the function. It will not wait for it to be clicked. This is directly a function call over here. So when I do a save, you will see directly it will submit the form. See, it is for submitting the form. It has not even changed the color. Means line number 10, this inside part has executed even before line number 8. And then it is changing the color. So, but you wanted to call the function on the click, right? So when we are calling a parameterized function, then we have to call it as a part of the arrow function. So call it like with an arrow function. Yeah, this would be better. So in the arrow function, you are calling register Alice. So this, if I do Control S, now see it is submit. When I click on it, it says your form is submitted. And now you can pass a parameter also, right? Now you can pass a parameter also Alice. Alice has come over here name. So you can add that also to your message. $name. When you close the backtick. So Control S. Now it is submitting. Submit. Your form has been submitted. Undefined Alice. Now it is showing Alice. So is it being called from somewhere else also? No. So on submit add event is a click, and on the click you are calling this function. Yeah, that's all. So do a save all. So now if I submit, okay, directly it comes over here. Thank you, Alice, only in once it is coming. We were calling it earlier, that's why. So like this you all can add your events. We can also remove the events also. Okay, so I was having a document over here for event. So here you can add event. You can also remove event. Okay, I showed you on the click, and on the want to pass a parameter, you can pass it like this. Okay, we can remove the event also. So button remove event listener, and which event you are removing? The click. So similarly we can also do the remove event listener also. So if I come here and I say after some action, if I want dot remove event listener, then here I have to give which event I want to remove from it. I want to remove the click event from it, let's say. So now if I do a Control S and I come over here, okay, so we did not give the target. So how we add, similarly we remove also. So now if I try to click, it shouldn't have. We have removed it, the event, no? Control S. not be working now. Why? How is it working? Remove the event listener click. So, remove the method name over here, I guess. So it's working. Yeah, I removed that arrow function from there, but still it's working over here. So let's ask ChatGPT as to what is the exact syntax of removing. How do we remove an event? Remove event listener click, handle click. So I'm calling handle click and then remove. Now handle click is name function, they both are done. Add event listener click, handle click. Yeah, submit button dot remove event listener click and handle, same thing I've done over here. Submit button element dot remove and which event click and the register method. So let's say here if I'm passing the register method over here, so when I click on submit, see now it is not working because I've removed it. If I comment this out, then it will work. Okay, so here we're passing the value to it, right? Here Alice has been executed. But here as soon as I save it, okay, it is considered as a function call. Here now are you able to see my VS Code? So if I call the register function like this, a normal function, so see now it will work, it will remove the event. Now I've added the event, I have removed the event also, and now when I click nothing should happen. I do a control S, see it's not sensing it. If I comment this out, do a control S, now it will sense. So events can be added and events can be removed also like this. This will be doing a lot in our real-time development. So we'll be accessing, what we'll be doing is we'll be taking the access of all the elements in JavaScript and then we'll be adding listeners to it. So let's say if I have a list of buttons, okay, so if I have multiple buttons, let's say I have, so button 1, let's try to see. I want to sense them, so I'll give a class. Okay, these were individual IDs. I was reading by the ID. You can also read by the class. Okay, so let's say I give it a class. Okay, my buttons. I give it my button class. So I'll give it to all of them. So these buttons belong to the same class. Okay, so now if I go and sense, if I want to read this into my JavaScript code, I'll have to come here and say what? Const my button elements will be what? Document dot get element by class name. And which class name have I given? My button. So this will return me all the buttons which I have. So if I console.log my button elements, let's see. Now this is an HTML element, right? HTML collection. We had discussed we have two types of lists, arrays and HTML collection. So see this is 0 indexes, my button 1 and all that stuff. Okay, so I now have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons, and I've fetched all the buttons now over here in my buttons. Okay, so now if I want to style individual, either I can use the arrow notation, the array notations. So if I say of 0, because I'm targeting this button, which is written button 1 over here. Of dot, what I want to do it to it, I take it and I say I want its style to be blue. So let's save it, and it impacts that button. So either we can do it individually, or we can run a for each and then try to do it. Okay, so if I want the 0, 2 and 4 as blue, and I want the 1 and 3 as green. So either I write this code, or better what we can do is we can do a for each on them. But if I try to do a for each on a HTML collection, let's see if my browser supports that or not. So let me just console.log hi, so if you log 5 times hi, see my button elements for each is not a function. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to make an array out of my buttons. So what was that? Array of, make an array of my buttons element, and on that now you can have for each. See, it is allowing me now. And what are we doing over here? We are just doing clog hi. So now showing only once time. I'm making an array of my button elements for each and returning a hi. So here we can take one element over here. So let's say my button, and we can also take the index also along with that, and then we can write this code. If index mod with 2 is equal to 0, means if it is an even button. So what did we do to the even button? This. So here all my button has come in which variable? My button. You can write my button dot style dot blue, else okay, now you can change that. Try to change the color and check yellow and orange. Let's check it. No, undefined, uncaught, cannot set properties of undefined background color. So I'm taking one element of this my buttons element and iterating through it and changing the style of it. Okay, let's try to use a map rather. Instead of for each, if I use a map, maybe that would be more helpful. Directly I can use my button start with that. Not a function. So this, yeah, for each would have worked over here. We are taking one element over here. Like if I had over here show buttons, if I had 5h1 tags, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5, and if I were to give it a class, my heading, okay, so control S, I have these headings, then I come and read these headings into a variable, my heading element equals to document dot get element by class name, my heading, and C log my heading element. Comment this out. So I have these elements. So now if I apply the same pattern, array dot of this HTML collection, and on that do a for each. Come over here, take one element in heading, and just change the heading dot style dot bgc equals to red, undefined setting background color. Why is it doing like this? Where are we missing out on the syntax? Somewhere or the other we are missing out in for each. That is from heading element dot for each, and we are doing heading element right. Background color is red. Yeah. My heading, okay. Array dot from, not array dot of. Array dot from. Okay, it was array dot from, not of. So same thing should work over here also. Array dot from. So these small syntaxes. See, okay, yellow, orange, yellow, orange. So like this you all can iterate if there are multiple elements and we're reading all of them. So either single element we can read using the class name, and single element we can read using the element by ID, and multiple we can fetch by the class name, store it into a HTML collection, convert that HTML collection into an array. Okay, so from this make a array, and then it has two parameters for each. Index also is there, so whatever you want to do logic you can apply over there. Same thing I have done over here. Okay, so then instead of using these methods, get element by class name, get element by ID, okay, we have one common method called as query selector. Okay, so I'll take the heading elements once again. Okay, so I'll comment this out. So the same task which I have done using get element by class name, see how it is done using query selector. Okay, so const, same I can say my heading elements. Okay. I'll take the same variable name. So no need to comment out all this. I can just comment out this much part. Rest is same, no? So I can take the same variable. I just want to show you how different way we can fetch. We have document dot query selector, and if it is going to return a single element we use query selector, and if it will give multiple elements I do query selector all. And here as we are going to fetch a class, and then I'll do a dot, and what is the class name? My heading. So it will fetch all the elements belonging to this class into this my heading element, and the code will be perfectly fine. So instead of blue, if I would have given any other color, yellow, it would still work fine. Making sense? So query selector all, you could have, okay, for here, and then here what would I have used? If I wanted to comment this out, then I could have used over here what? Query selector. So now don't use ID and class names, you use one common term that can be called as query selector. So copy and say document dot query selector. Now this is single element, right? And this is by ID. And ID we have dot hash, right? For CSS, which ID? Submit button. Okay. Of this color, I want to make it pink. So now it is red, no? Now see, I'm changing it to pink. So Control S. See, code change, color changes to pink over here. So these things you all should learn and practice. Let me push this onto the repo so that you guys are able to practice this. Fetching data by various query selector and various ways. Get element by ID, get element by class name, get element by query selector, all that. Hi Disha, good morning. Hi Nishan, good morning. Okay, so you guys practice this. Okay, what if I had instead of okay, so these all are of the same h1 tag. So there are how many h1 tags over here now? Total there's in 6 h1 tags over here, right? There's okay, 5 over there. So let's say these 5 were one category, and there is then extra h1 over here. Okay, this is some other category. Some other. Okay, so test heading. So now when I save this, so now if I come here, now I have so if I come here and if I do a QuerySelector all for my heading, will only fetch my headings over here. But if I want to hello, So if I want to fetch all the headings, then we have a tag called, so if I do const all heading elements, so we have document dot get element by tag name. Which tag name? h1. So this will give me all the heading irrespective whichever class it belongs to. So if I console.log all heading elements, should give me 1 2 3 4 5 6 HTML collection of size 6. See, HTML collection of size 6. And then if I want to do, I can put it in the loop and then style it. The same I could have done using, okay, so the same I could have done
so that it is properly phased out and all. It should not look like that we did not do it. So that I have to do. So I will pick up one by one. Probably I will pick up first path, and then I will pick up. And for data domain, I need to have one internal connect with Taras and then View and ECS and Dimitro because I need to explain them the scope, the remaining scope. So that is all things which I will be doing today. And apart from that, there is one issue for scenario service. So that I will explain it to you. We need to fix it before we have this production release going to the EU and US environment. So that is there. And for Postgres, I had a connect with Soumya. So there is some validation discussions related, some planning has to be done related to Postgres side. So I have thought about some approach. I have documented that as well, but I need software to be able to provide an activity for it. And similarly for scope also, I have some ideas that which I can use it and get some test the documents that we were involved on. So yeah, personally, these things.
and where there is LM prod planning just have to see whatever they're presenting, how they're picking up. Is it something we can add something more to it, or if they're fine with that, that is you have to check on.
Okay, I will be available for half an hour. After that, I will have to meet you for some process discussion.
So the same thing which we are doing, get element by tag name, we can do it. If I comment this out, same thing we can do using query selector. Query selector, as I'm getting multiple, right? Query selector all, and then here you can just give the name of the tag. So if I do a control S, it still shows 6 over here. So if I do just give the tag name, okay, it will show you everything. So if I give a dot, it will target a class. If I give a hash, it will target a ID, and if I don't give anything, it will just target me this. Okay. So if I have a div inside over here, okay. So if I have a div over here, okay, div ID equals to, let's say I say country, okay. So I if I say in country we have Maharashtra, okay, so let's say in country we have, let's say, New Delhi, okay, all these which directly report to the country, they don't have any state. So Lakshadweep and okay, then in the country we have a div whose ID is let's say MH, and then in H1 we, let's say, have the cities like Pune, Mumbai, okay, and then in this div, one more div we take as, let's say, Gujarat, okay, so we take city Surat, we take Surat, Ahmedabad, okay. So now if I go and search by ID, okay, so if I do a document.querySelector, okay, so we have this query selector all, okay, so we have this, where is the query selector, okay, so I made document on this query selector, quite detailed documentation if you all see. So hash will target the ID, this will target the tag, this will target the class red, okay. Now here see, when I say this class and in that class all the P, okay, okay. So now if you want to target any hierarchy level, okay, so in the ID target any all the H1s, this H1, this H1, this H1, this H1, this H1, this H1, all the H1 which come under the target with country. So directly we have to do like this, okay, there will be multiple, no, so this is how you do it. So you will say const all Indian cities, let's say, equals to document dot query selector all, then in this class, okay, country target all the H1s, okay, in this class country target all the H1s, okay. So now if I do a control S, let's see what is the view, okay, so we are able to see these, okay, we are able to see all this of all the cities. If I now that will target all the cities now in this dot, irrespective at any hierarchy level, irrespective either it is an immediate child or it is a nested child, it will target all the H1s, okay. So all the H1s have now come over here. So how many H1s have we targeted, can you tell me? 1 2 3 4 5 6, right? So if you do a all Indian cities dot length, it should give you 6. It should display me 6 over here. Save all is there. So what was the heading I had given? Okay, this is a class. I gave an ID. I should have given a class. Okay, it is a class. So Control S. Now see, it is showing me 6. It's targeting all the 6 headings. Okay, and then if I try to do any CSS with that, okay, so if we run this loop, we run the loop on this, and change the color to red, it will impact all the cities. Okay, if you want to target only the immediate child, okay, only the immediate child, then you can use the arrow. Okay, it's mentioned over here. See over here, use the arrow. This will target only the immediate child of. Okay, so I'll just copy this also, and I'll say all Indian, all child cities or direct child cities of country class. Okay, so now you will say this, give a arrow over here. So this will target only the immediate child. So which are the immediate child of country? These are the immediate child. These are the immediate H1s. Only New Delhi and Lakshadweep. So we'll target only these two. So now if you iterate through it, okay. So now let's say green. So now this will only target the 2 countries of India only. Okay, I am getting this, guys. This small detailing I am providing over here. How we can use query selector all for everything, and then okay. So here I have given in further detail also in this document. I'll share this document with you all. Okay. So if you want to target all that input whose attribute is type, so attribute you give as a sort of a index to the array. So tag name is input. Like here, how I am giving only the tag name, that only the h1 tag in the country class. So if you have it in further detail, so like if you have something like this, that you are having, let's say, a form. So these are always form elements, no? So if I have an input type equals to text, and let me give a br. We have various type of input. No, input type is text. Input type is, let's say, these are 2 text boxes, and this is input type is password. Then we have input type as number. Okay. We have input type as date. Okay. So we have input type is password, input type is number, input type is date. All of these input types we have. So if I do a control S, this is how they should reflect on the. Okay, so I'll say text date. Okay, then we give some button also. That is button, and we can take input as submit also. Button we don't have to give a caption. We can give a value over here. So we have this data. Okay, now we have this data over here. So now if I want to target these text boxes, only these text boxes I want to target. So what I can do is, I can do all text inputs. We can say document dot query selector all. Okay, and then here we can say only those which are input and which have a type tag. Okay, let's say only those which are input and have a type attribute. So which all are there which are input and have a type attribute. This is input, have a type, input type, input type, input. They will target all the 6. Okay, we'll target all the 6, 1 2 3 4 5 6. We'll target all the 7 elements. Okay, so if I come here, will give me all the 7 elements. So let's say if I console.log all, okay, all inputs, let's say. Okay, all inputs having type attribute, all input having type attribute dot length. So this should give me around 7. This should give me 7. Okay, all input. But now if I want to filter out that those whose type is text, so if I give over here type whose type is text, so now how many are there whose type is text? 2. We'll only target these 2. See, now only targeted these 2. Okay, so if I want to add some border around that, so if I want to add a border around only those, so if I say of that I want to add a dot border equals to 1 1 pixels solid red, let's say. Let's see. So see, it is only targeting those text boxes only. Okay. So if I say target this for the password, okay. So only those input whose type is password, if I save, it will target the password. Only those whose input type is submit. So we'll target the submit button. Getting it, guys? How we are trying to access the elements from the HTML and then trying to manipulate that DOM using JavaScript. That is the primary objective of playing with JavaScript. This is where okay. So I'm just pushing all this code back to the repo for you guys. Yeah, Dishan. So on that POC part, we made a good progress yesterday. So we are able to fetch all the data from the Azure blob and store it into various partitions into this snowflake. So we tried to test it by fetching one partition, then multiple partitions together also we did in various permutations, and all the data was successfully reflecting on the snowflake. So that part of the POC has been completed. So that was stage one. No, this was I guess one of the Soumya's tasks initially which she had assigned to me. But Vinaya had told me that keep it as a backup. If you don't have any primary task, high priority task, you can work on this. So they had spoken to Soumya about this, that Umar will be working on the Scrum task. If he has a bandwidth, he'll work on this. So this was initially given to me maybe 2 months prior, 2 months ago. Yeah, I guess we can take her update on that. That I spoke to Umar. This is what he had to say. So what should I do? Remove it from this? Or is it still needed? Yeah, please check with Soumya. Okay, so like this, various forms you can use a query selector. This detailed document I have prepared. So if this can be of any help to you all, would be great. Okay. So this, I have given you detailed instructions over here. So this was also a very important topic which we have discussed today, how event handling and the various ways of fetching the DOM manipulation. Okay, so maybe I'll share all these documents with you all. Okay, so yeah, so one more thing which I wanted to discuss is about the export types. So once we are done with that part, then maybe we are good to go with React. So this much of JavaScript would be more than sufficient for you guys. Okay, so there is a document called export types over here. Okay, export type updated. So if just last time when we saw that whenever I wanted to work with any data, I had to write that data into the same class.